Reporters, welcome back to my channel. Gather around. I've got a little bit of tea, okay? So I was listening to Carlos's podcast, and you guys know Carlos. He's a world famous reality television producer. He was at the helm of RHOA, Real Housewives of New Jersey, in their prime, and he is very friendly with the cast of RHOP as well. I believe he did work on the show for a little bit. So Jaqueline was actually a guest on his podcast this week, and what if I told you that the person who got Jaqueline casted on the Real Housewives of Potomac wasn't even her best friend, Mia Thornton? Would that kind of like make you kind of, like when the, like a little, would that make you look at me a little strangely? Well, that is the truth, according to Jaqueline herself. She told Carlos that it was not Mia who got her on the show. She initially wanted to play coy about which one of the Real Housewives of Potomac girls put her on the show. And Carlos, he was not with it. He was like, listen, okay, obviously it's Gizelle, right? She's a producer's pet and they take her word over everyone's anyway. So it had to have been her. And that's something that she takes a lot of pride in being a good producer. So why don't you just come off it? And so Jaqueline, again, trying to be coy, she's like, well, listen, there were two people there and I'll let you guess which one. But obviously, if there are two people somewhere, anywhere, it's gonna be Gizelle and Robin, because they are the only real, true, genuine friends on that show that we have. So she did eventually kind of give it up and admit that it was Gizelle that got her on the show. But here's the thing. Although Mia is not the one who got her on the show, Mia understands. She harbors no resentment or bad feelings about it. She's like, listen, Mia was still new to the show when all of this went down. She was still trying to get her bearings and whatnot. So I never expected her to try to bring me onto the show or anything like that, right? When she's not even established herself. I don't think she was trying to keep me out or anything. In fact, she could have tried to when the producers were interviewing her about me and our relationships and whatnot, but she put in the good word herself, okay? And that's how I was able to get on the show. Gizelle set the plan in motion, and then Mia co-signed it, and then I was eventually cast on the show. By the way, if you're new here, you guys, welcome to the Grace Report, where we cover pop culture and reality TV news every single weekday. So if you're into the mess, make sure to subscribe and like this video and, other videos that you might enjoy as well for more videos, of course. Now, let's get into a little bit more of the info that Jaqueline spilled on this episode of Carlos King's podcast, shall we? So if you're wondering where she stands with her frenemy of 20, 30 years, Mia Thornton, well, she does say that they are currently working on things. From my understanding, they seem to be in a better place. They're not BFF like they were before. It's going to be really hard after the things that they said about each other on that show and whatnot, but they seem to be in a better place. In fact, Jaqueline spent a lot of the podcast sticking up for Mia and talking about how nice Mia was when they met and stuff. Like, she honestly never had a single bad thing to say about Miss Mia Thornton, which I think is a good sign of growth for the two of them. And if not, it's just a good sign of Jaqueline's character. She's not the type that's going to dog you out and try to publicly humiliate you like some people when, when they want the spotlight and they need to climb on top of someone to get it, or when you guys fall out or anything like that. So I thought that was awesome. And Carlos did say that he loved Jaqueline's spirit. He's like, listen, I've got the gift of discernment, and I can tell that you genuinely are a really good person. Now, getting back to the stuff that Jaqueline said about Mia, she talks about how they clicked and everything. There weren't that many Black people in their town and stuff, and Mia was this really beautiful girl, and so she wanted to be friends with this pretty Black girl who came in this town that only had like 3 Black families and whatnot. And she also did say that Mia has apologized to her several times for the allegations that she made on air that Jaqueline had been creeping around with married men and whatnot. She did also say that when she was confronting Mia about like the fight and the way that Mia was treating her on air, she's like, why are you doing this to me, Mia? Like, listen, none of these Potomac girls are your real friends. We have a true friendship that has spanned decades. We've been through so much together. We are literally sisters. Like, why? And that really kind of broke my heart for her. Like, the fact that someone that you've known like this and you've lived with and everything, like you were raised together and whatnot, would just throw you under the bus for a show for people who don't even genuinely like her. That absolutely has to hurt. Now, Carlos really likes Jaqueline, and you guys already know I like Jaqueline as well, right? And I wanted her to be a housewife to watch the evolution of her relationship with Mia and the situation with Gordon, which we'll get back to. Well, Carlos, he's like, listen, Jaqueline, I really do think that Mia is the future of the show, and you as her friend, you can be the future as well. Like, this is the only genuine friendship on the show outside of Misery and Company. And unlike Misery and Company, you and Mia will actually like take each other to task for things. Like, we can actually watch like you guys disagree on things and make up and this and that. We can watch like the full evolution of your relationship. And like, you guys have already given us a lot to work with here. We feel like we're not even yet scratching the surface. So Carlos did actually make a public plea, y'all, to the producers of the Real Housewives of Potomac to cast Jaqueline as a housewife. And I want to know what you guys think about it. Well, listen, I don't even know if I want to know, because I do already know. Like, I ask you guys this whenever I recap with Kempire and Layla and whatnot. Like, you guys have already told me. A lot of you guys seem to be into it, but a lot of you guys are not into it either. But listen, I am with Carlos. We do need another genuine friendship, and a friendship where people will be held accountable. Secrets won't be hidden and whatnot, like unlike this friendship that we've got going on over here. So Jaqueline did say that she would be open to coming back to the show as a friend of, but she would prefer to come back as a housewife because she feels as though she's got so much to give, right? And I'm with you. All right, Jaqueline, come on back. And don't forget, she still is very friendly with some of the other castmates, especially Candace. And I don't even want to see this woman's name. I don't think I have a picture of her, thank God. But Charisse. So she says, me and Candace talk all the time. Her mom, Dot, loves me. She's been trying to get the info on me, and I spill it all. I'm an open book. And Charisse and I talk on the phone all the time as well. So she does have an in there. And I'm saying, thank God I don't have Charisse's picture, because I don't want her back on the show, right? So I don't want to encourage that in any way, shape, or form. Now, another thing that I thought was quite cute when Jaqueline talked about like the potential of coming back to the show, she's like, well, if I do come back, I would like to be in a better place with Mia. Like, I really do think she's a genuine, lovely girl, like after listening to this podcast interview, right? So Carlos, like I told you guys, he makes that big like public service announcement, like, please, 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 producers, if you want to save this show. And they do complain about how nasty the show has gotten, how low people are willing to go, the people they're willing to slander, the marriages they're willing to ruin, the livelihoods they're trying to destroy and whatnot. And so that is part of Carlos's plea. He's saying, listen, we can't have another season of this bullying, of these lies, of these slander, of these just very vicious, catty things while people are hiding their real lives, right? And I am totally with him on that. So another thing that Carlos actually said was that he would like to see Ashley Darby demoted from the show. He's like, listen, she's had a good run, but at this point, we do need for her to be demoted. And I do believe that he wants to have Robin eliminated from the show altogether, which I feel like the majority of Potomac fans feel the same way, especially after that Patreon stunt that Miss Robin Dixon pulled on us. But listen, y'all, I'm weak. If you saw my video from the other day, then you know, like, now that Robin's alleged husband, Juan Dixon, has lost his job at the university, and rightfully so. He definitely deserved to lose his job because of the way he mishandled those allegations. I'm scared for them. What will happen to their family? What will happen to their kids if Robin loses her job as well, So like, I'm kind of feeling a little like, well, maybe if she stays, she'll actually bring it because she's going to be desperate. But at the same time, like, the storyline is kind of just wrapped up. I don't think he'll be able to talk about his allegations on the show because it's an open case. It's an open legal case. And who would be foolish enough to really get into the nitty gritty of something like that while they're still, trying to clear their name in the court of law? Another thing that I forgot to mention is that Jaqueline wants to go to a therapist with Mia on the show, maybe even off the show. She didn't really specify, but I think this was in line with talking about what her storyline could potentially be as a housewife. And, this made me happy because, again, when we do those recaps with Kempire and Layla, I always said I would love to see a therapy thing. Either the girls confronting Gizelle about being really, really miserable, bitter woman who wants to destroy all the marriages around her. But now seeing that Jaqueline wants to do therapy with Mia to work on their relationship, I think that could be really interesting, right? Like, I'm all for it. I do want her to come back as a housewife or as a friend of at the very least. Now, I do want to come back and flag this a little bit here. I don't know if Jaqueline asked Carlos prior to the interview or anything, like to not bring up the weird relationship and the flirting that she was doing with Mia's husband, Gordon, but it wasn't mentioned on the podcast. And I was a little disappointed in that because Jaqueline, as much as I like her and whatnot, but she played into a lot of like these weirdo things, right? Like she would flirt with Mia's husband and she would not answer straight questions about whether or not she was banging that man. She'd be like, what did Mia tell you? Is Mia around? Like that would make me uncomfortable if my friend was running around speaking that way. You know what I mean? And I would have loved to have seen her answer for that. I do think that Carlos might be like me. I'm distracted by beauty, I always say. And Jaqueline is a really beautiful woman. And so, you know, maybe he was too distracted by that because he did say, wow, she's so beautiful, like a million times. But I would have loved to see her be accountable for some of the things that she did. You know, it was very much like, oh, Mia did all these things, but I'm going to forgive her. But let's talk about you flirting with that man, girl. You know, talking about, oh, you signed this card because you love me. And, you know, coming into the house, like, what do you think of my outfit, Gordon? Like that type of stuff. I would have loved to see her be accountable for it. But maybe that is something that I'll have to wait for the next season of the show for if she is cast as a friend of or as a housewife. So what do you think, you guys? I do want to ask you, do you think that with Carlos King's backing, Jaqueline can potentially be cast as the next Real Housewife of Potomac? Or she could at least officially be cast as a friend of? Let me know what you think, okay, in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.